Hey, badass business owners, why on earth are you flushing profits down the toilet? Don't you want more profits? Well, of course you do. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at 20 ways you might be losing profit in your business. Now, the first one has to do with underpricing, because a lot of times what happens is we're not paying attention to the pricing that we do, and we are not accounting for all the different things that go into our pricing, which we're going to talk about several of those later on as we go through these items. But one of the things I want to talk about up front has to do with this concept that everybody's cheap. I need to be the cheapest. Stop chasing the bottom. Okay. You need to price based off of value. People are going to pay for the value. People are going to pay if you're solving the pain point that they have. Think about it. If we could all have a $200 phone, we would. But the reason why we pay $1,000 for that phone is everything else that phone does for us. And for example, if somebody has a yard that is way overgrown, they may not think that paying $50 for that is the right price. But then again, if they get a notice that they're going to pay $100 in a fine from their HOA, all of a sudden that $50 doesn't seem so bad. So remember, your pricing is about what value you solve, what pain point you solve. People are willing to pay it regardless of what it is. So stop chasing your pricing to the bottom. My whole goal here is how do we get your profits up? And the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that you are pricing correctly. And that is just one way. Stick with me as we get further along. We're going to talk about other ways that impact your pricing that you're probably doing that you don't realize is costing you profits when it comes to you pricing. So that is a huge one, which is why it's number one. The second thing we're going to talk about is poor job scheduling. I get it. When you first start your business, you take every job that you can possibly get. You're running from side to side, town to town, this into town to the other in town, to the next job, to the next job. Well, what happens is when we don't go back and fix that and we don't come up with a better scheduling, we end up wasting a lot of time, energy, gas, profits, all kinds of stuff, because we also, by bouncing back and forth, we actually may not take a job that we could squeeze in if we were more efficient on our scheduling. So scheduling properly is actually going to encompass a few different things, just like pricing did, that you're going to see here in a few minutes as we hit some of these other areas. But please make sure that if you haven't looked at the way that you schedule in a while, make sure that you go back and you look at how you are scheduling today, because more than likely you're costing yourself profit in a lot of different ways because you're bouncing all over the place. And which brings us to number three, wasting gas, because the biggest thing that you do when you have poor scheduling by going all over town and all over tarnation is you're wasting gas. And gas costs money, in case you haven't noticed. And every time you fill up, it's a lot of money. Sometimes it's more than other times, and you need to make sure that you stop wasting that gas. Same thing when you're going back and forth to go get more product, to go get to the other in town. If you know, I'm all about that 5-mile radius. If you're running 10, 15, 20 minutes outside of town to do jobs, you're just spending more money on wear and tear on your vehicle as well as gas. So gas is a huge one that really adds up. If you have to fill up 3 times a week, you're looking at anywhere from $120 to $200, depending upon where you live. And if you could be more efficient, go back to that scheduling up above, and you stop wasting gas by running all over tarnation, guess what? You can put some profit to your business, because that adds up as you go week after week after week. Which ties into not preparing for the job. If you get all the way to a job and then all of a sudden you have to go back to the shop, or you have to go to Home Depot or something like that, you're not prepared for that job. You know, maybe you can have a customer take a picture of something if you need to know the exact size of what the unit looks like that you're going to go work on. Try to take advantage of that. Today, almost everybody has a phone that has a camera on it. Really simple to do. If you know you're going to go do a certain type of job, stock up on some of those parts. You can, if you talk to somebody who's a seasoned pro at what it is that they do, they have some of the most common stuff in their vehicle at all times, because they know it saves them time and energy from having to run back and forth to go get those items. So make sure that you're doing everything you can. Ask better questions if you need to. So this way you're better prepared for the job. So this way you're not going back and forth and costing yourself profits, not just in gas, but once again, every time we delay getting something done, it means we can't do something different, and we're wasting energy. Because one of the things that we're doing, by the way, is our time. Our time is worth something. You are not free in the business. You're going to hear me talk about this a few times throughout this, because you are two people in your business. You are the employee in your business and you are the business owner. And no matter what, your time is not free. Your time is taking away profits that you would make as a business owner. All right, which brings us to our next item, which is waste. Waste comes in a lot of different forms. We've already talked about wasting time, wasting gas, but what about when we buy too much of something, or we cut something wrong and we have to throw it away? Or, as simple as when I had my ice cream shop and kids would over scoop what it is, the ice cream. That is waste. The customer might be happy, but at the end of the day, the business owner was not happy because we were wasting product and we didn't have it. I still go crazy when I go into any in a gas station or whatever the case may be, where you get soda and people are just dumping them all over the place and throwing them away. Yes, it's worked into the business model, but to me, it's just waste. I'm just seeing money go out the door when people throw away stuff. So make sure you're looking at waste within your business and how can you clean up that waste and not have as much of it. Next one is doing the job twice. When you have to go back and redo a job, all you're doing is wasting profit, because almost always all the time spent on redoing the job is 100% waste. I know you're thinking, well, I'm free. I don't pay myself. Yeah, you do. You are the employee of the business. Your time is worth something. Just like I said, anytime you have to do something twice, you have the products that you have to redo, the time that you have to redo, the gas running back out there, your time being spent redoing the job. You need to find out what's causing you to have to redo jobs so you can do them right in the first place, because that is costing you so much profit in your business, especially if it is happening all the time. The next one has to do with costs, and you need to make sure that you are looking at the costs in your business. And this talks about your product, your cost of goods. Okay, a lot of times what we do is we just get it from wherever we can get it, and we don't step back and ask myself, is there somebody or somewhere that I can get this at a better pricing? Can I split or share the costs with somebody else? You need to always be looking at your costs. And I know some of you are like, Tammy, you don't understand. This is the only place I can get it. Okay, I get it. All right. That doesn't mean you stop trying. Okay. Because even if you can only find one item that you can purchase better, that's profit that you're putting to your bottom line. Once again, this is all about how do you stop flushing profit down the drain. And this is one of those things. You need to always be looking at your costs, always tweaking, finding out how you can purchase better. Is it better to do it in quantity? Is it better to share? What are some different things that you can do when it comes to your costs? Next one up is products and services that you shouldn't be carrying anymore. There are a lot of times when we started off doing something because we were taking every job under the sun to be able to do it. And at the end of the day, it's not that profitable for us. If something is not profitable for you, you probably should not be doing it. For example, some people that do printing and whatnot, a lot of people get into it because they're printing t-shirts and whatnot, but they find out really quickly you don't really make a lot of money when it comes to that piece, and they go off into doing other designs and graphics and stuff like that where they make the real money. But they get away from the t-shirts because it's such a small profit margin, they stop doing it. The Home Depots of the world, the Lowe's of the world, guess what? They don't make any money on drywall. They make the money on the related items that go along with it. They probably wouldn't be carrying the drywall if they weren't selling the other items. So at the end of the day, I want you to look at all the products and services that you sell. And if you don't make the right amount of money in it, you may need to look at doing it again. There's a reason a lot of landscapers graduate from doing monthlies up into doing hardscapes and doing backyards and everything else. There's way more money to be made instead of these little ones that they do. So I want you to look at all the products and services that you sell. Do you need to do them? Can you get rid of them? Do you need to even have them anymore? More than likely, especially if they're costing you money, there might be a product or service that you do today that just costs you tons of money. You need to get rid of it and move on. Also, on the flip side, you might be missing out on add-on items or warranties. Earlier, when I was telling you about the drywall, once again, they wouldn't sell the drywall if they didn't have the related items that they make tons of money on. The reason you go through the grocery store and they have the candies, chips, and soda all at the front is because that's where they make tons of profit. They want you to throw it in the cart. It's almost all profit. All right. If you are a carpet cleaner, can you sell them some carpet cleaners that they can use in between visits? I want you to start thinking of all those add-on items that you might be able to add to the products or services that you sell. I've done other videos or other podcasts on this that will help you out with brainstorming some of these things. So you want to look at that. Warranties, everybody and their mother offers a warranty today. It's almost all profit because 85% of the people, I think, never use them, which case, for the 10, 15% that do, you at least break even, but all the other ones are profit to the bottom line. So make sure that you're not missing out on any add-on items or warranties that you should do. In the next group of items, we're going to grab our profit and loss statement, and we're going to take a look at a couple of places that you also might be losing profit. And the first one up is reoccurring bills. There's almost always on everybody's profit and loss something that they're paying for month after month after month that they are no longer using, or they don't pick up, like a magazine subscription or something like that. Something small, but it could also be something else that you're paying for, a shed that you don't need to really have, or a storage unit that you don't really need to have that you can empty out and put, but you just never cleaned it out and you never moved it. I want you to go through your profit and loss and look for those reoccurring things. It might be $20, it might be $50. It all adds up. It's still a couple $100 in your pocket, because I promise you, if somebody walked up to you, offered you a $100 bill for no strings attached, you would take it. So please make sure you don't throw away these little bills, because they are going to add profit, and you're going to stop flushing it away. Next one is deferred repairs and maintenance. Sometimes what we do is we put Band-Aids on things instead of fixing it the right way. And I want you to get out there, and I want you to start saying, hey, if I just spent the money and time to fix it the right way the first time, I can save myself profits from having to do it over and over. When I bought my ice cream shop, the guy had been I bought a used one. This guy was putting Band-Aids on all of the refrigerators and freezers, and it was having to cost $100, $200 every single month to fix them. I'm like, what's it going to take to fix it right the first time? So this way I don't have this problem where you have to keep coming back. And that's what I did. And guess what? The equipment lasted a heck of a lot longer than doing it. At my office, for example, we have a toilet that hasn't been working for years, and every time I turn around, they're fixing something in that toilet, and by now they've probably paid for 4 toilets, and they finally just decided to buy a new toilet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if you would have just done that in the first place, you wouldn't have kept having this problem. So look at your deferred repairs and maintenance, and how can you just do it right now, and then that way you don't have to keep paying all that additional money. Look for rentals, leases, things that you no longer use. I talked about the storage unit earlier. There might be a tool or something that you've been leasing, but you never use it. Why not just return it, stop paying that monthly lease on it, rental on it, and then just lease it as needed when it comes time. If you have a brick and mortar business, look at your overall lease. Can you renegotiate it? Sometimes it's easier than others. Granted, if business is booming and the real estate's strong, it's going to be harder for you to renegotiate. But at the same time, if you're not in a not so great location, it might be okay for you to be able to try to renegotiate that down a little bit more if needed, because it's the only space that you can get at this time. So don't give up on that. Make sure that you're always looking at anything that you rent or lease. You might be able to renegotiate it. Next thing is a grouping of things. If you go into your operational expenses, there might be some different things in there that you are overpaying, and you can renegotiate as well. Stuff like insurance, sometimes advertising you can renegotiate. If you can show, hey, I'm not getting the bang for my buck, but you've already committed to a contract, you might be able to get them to renegotiate that a little bit. Phones, cell phones, different things like that. There's all kinds of stuff in your expenses area. Go through it and see if you can renegotiate or get rid of some of those items that might be in there. The next one is paying off debt. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but here, listen to this. When we have debt, we already start in the hole. There goes profits right out the door right away. And we need to make sure that we get that paid off, so that way we're not throwing away profits before we ever get going. But also on top of that, anytime we have debt, we have interest, and interest is additional debt that we're paying and additional profit that we're giving up. So to me, I like you to be a debt-free business as much as possible. So get that debt paid off. Just rip the Band-Aid off like we were talking about earlier. Get that stuff paid off, and guess what? You're automatically, whatever that payment is going to go back to your profits, as well as any of that interest that's been piling up on top of it. You're going to get rid of that. Now, the next section has to do with people, both the people that work for you and your customers. First one is you need to get rid of dead weight. Sometimes we have employees that maybe are not performing at the level that they need to be performing at, and when people don't care, they don't care. They're wasting stuff. They're cutting corners. They're ticking off customers. They're just costing us profit all along. I'm a huge proponent of building the best team that you can possibly build. So you want to make sure that you train them, you teach them, you show them everything that they need to do, you help them out. But if they're just not cutting it, they just don't care, they're just a cancer in your business, you need to get rid of them and move on and find somebody somebody else, because if they're, it could be that they're just talking to everybody and they won't stop. You need to get that stopped because it's hurting their productivity as well as the other employees' productivity. So look at that whole dead weight situation in your business, employees that aren't performing at the level that they should. Can you teach them, train them, help them become better, coach them? That's our first option. But if none of that is working and you hold them accountable and you're writing them, go ahead and get rid of them. You're going to see that productivity and that profitability in your business go up just because you dealt with that problem that you have been putting off. Employee morale, that's another huge one, because when your employees care, they tend to care more about the profits in your business. They might not say it that way, but guess what? They're going to take better care of your customers. They're going to make sure the jobs are done better. They're not going to be creating waste that they don't need to. They're going to come up with solutions of things that they see that, hey, you know what? I know a better way that we can do this. How about if we did this? They're going to come up with ways that are going to actually create more profit for your business. So that's another wonderful thing, that a great employee morale can really help you create more profits in your business because they just care more. The next one is sometimes you just need to fire some customers. There are some customers that we all have that are bleeding us dry when it comes to our profits. Maybe they make us come back all the time, or maybe they refuse to go with the new pricing, or maybe they have services or products that are no longer viable for your business because you've outgrown that. Now, I'm not saying get rid of good people. What I am saying is sometimes we have problem children that are out there as our customers, and we've been holding on for some reason. And if you've got customers that you've been holding on to that are just sucking you dry as far as profits and anything like that, you need to get rid of them. You need to just rip that Band-Aid off. Find them somebody else if need be. Maybe you no longer do that service and you just need to get rid of them. Then find them somebody that can pick that up, and it creates profit for you by you going that extra mile. You still take care of them by finding them someone, but then you go ahead and you're able to fix your side of the business because you no longer have that customer. All right, the next one is the section that I talk about all the time, which is you need to know your business numbers. By not knowing your business numbers, it's probably the biggest way that you are costing yourself profits. For example, poor margins. Remember earlier when we started this thing off about pricing correctly? Well, your margins has to do with pricing, because your margins is what you sell it for minus what your cost of goods are. That's how you come up with your margins. Well, if you're not calculating out that properly, then guess what? You're costing yourself profits, because if you're just picking numbers out of thin air because this is what I should charge, or this is because this is what Billy down the street charges, without doing any analysis of your numbers, then you're costing yourself profits, because you need to know the true costs of doing business. Remember earlier when we were talking about your personal pay? There are two of you in this business. Remember this. There's you, the employee, and then you, the business owner. Every time you do a job, you need to make sure that your costs include paying you as an employee, whether that's $10 an hour, $15 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever that is. You need to have a basic employee wage in there as part of the cost. By you not including that, you are not figuring out those margins correctly, and you're costing yourself profit, because it just trickles down, as you know, through the rest of your profit and loss statement. So it's important that you know the true cost of everything that goes into you doing something, and not just saying, well, I only need this. Well, no, sit back and ask yourself. You should know for every single product you sell, every single service that you sell, you need to know exactly what the costs are for that product or service. That is a huge thing for you to know on your business numbers. Another thing that people tend to not think about when they're setting their prices is that they're not accounting for their operational costs. You need to make sure that you grab that profit and loss statement and you know that, hey, my expenses tend to run 20% at the end of the month. And you need to make sure that when you are setting your prices, that you account for the fact that, yes, you have your costs to do the job, but you also have an additional 20% waiting to be paid back here in the back when it comes to your operational costs. So when you're setting those prices, you have to keep that in mind. You can't just say, hey, well, the costs are going to be $50 and I want to make $50, so it's going to be $100. Well, out of that $50 that you set aside, there's an additional 20% waiting to be taken from you, which is another $20, by the way, that you still have to pay for your operational expenses. And that's what gets people in trouble. And that's why you don't make as much as you think you are making at the end of the month because all of a sudden these bills are due and you're having to dip in your pocket to get those. It's because you didn't price correctly, which is one of the very first things that we talked about, but you're not accounting for your operational expenses. And that's why it's important that you know your business numbers. Remember, sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals your profits. You need to make sure that you're always keeping that in mind as you're going through setting everything. That's what's costing you profits, is you're not accounting for those three things. Now, one of the biggest tips that I can give you is to keep this thing in mind. I watch a lot of businesses do this. They go out, they do a job. It's a $100 job. They take that $100, they pay the $50 in costs, and then they put the rest in their pocket. That might not be yours. Remember, there's you, the employee, and you, the business owner. All right. So you, the employee, might only be making $30 out of that or $20 out of that. The business has bills to pay, just like we talked about. You have the operational expenses. You have money that you want to reinvest back into the business. You have debt that you want to pay off. So it's really important you stop thinking like an employee, and you stop thinking that just because you do a job and you paid off the cost for whatever equipment or products that you needed, that the rest of yours. That's not the way it works. You need to change your mindset, because I'm telling you, it's costing you profits, which is why you're always being blindsided at the end of the month. Now, I know I just went over a bunch of different things. This is where I want you to grab a pen and paper, and I want you to start jotting down just maybe 2 or 3, 4, 5 of these items that we've been talking about that you're going to dive in deeper, so this way you can work on increasing your profits. It's definitely overwhelming, but I'm telling you, there's tons of ways out there that you are hurting yourself. And if you could just start with those big buckets, like we talked about, pricing correctly and everything that goes into that, that you're scheduling better. I'm telling you, some of them will have the trickle down effect, because if you're scheduling better, you know you're going to lower your gas, for example, wear and tear on your vehicle, stuff like that. Start with some of those bigger buckets, and how can you start working on making them more efficient, because it's going to start putting more profits into your business, which therefore will work its way to you as well. And if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and this way you can never miss any of the other videos that are coming out. And if you want to learn more about your business numbers, don't forget to go to knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. There's a link in the notes below. This way you can start learning your business numbers better. Now get out there and be the badass that I know you are.